The Hamilton County Commission staff meeting, March 26, 2024. I'll ask the folks to introduce themselves on the dais.
Hi, Teresa Gillio, County Administration.
Leslie Hervey, Clerk to the Board.
Stephanie Summerall Dumas, Commissioner.
Good afternoon. I'm County Commissioner Denise Driehaus.
Ludo, County Administrator.
Charlie Annis, Prosecutor's Office.
And I'm Hamilton County Commission President Alicia Reese. We'll get to our calendar. First presentation today is from the Council on Aging, update on the levy and utility and home modification program. We have Ms. Susan Burke and Ken Wilson. Welcome.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I'm going to give a quick update on the utility program, and then Ken will give a quick status on the levy. So I believe you have a presentation. This is the 2023 Hamilton County Senior Utility and Home Repair Assistance Program overview. So as you know, we have $1 million that was funded through the Senior Service Levy for this program. The eligibility criteria continue to be the same. You must be a Hamilton County resident over 60, an older adult or other family member in the household paying the utility bill, ineligible for other assistance programs, have a household income of 300% or below the poverty level, and there is no disability requirement to benefit from this program. So during 2023, do I need to probably move this, don't I? Oh, God, I was in charge of this. Okay. We had 667 utility assistance services provided. 616 were through Duke Energy, and 51 were for the water utility, for a total of $228,500. The lion's share of the funding continues to go to the home modification program. There were 160 home modification and repairs, representing $751,000. So this is just a breakdown of utility, home mod only, and utility and home mod. You can get a combination of both, but you'll see the bulk of the assistance is in the utility, which also tends to be less expensive. So of the 169 completed home modification repairs, the cost was $750,000 roughly. The average cost of each repair was a little over $4,550. The most common types of repairs are, of course, stair lifts, ramps, grab bars, and other accessibility modifications outside and inside the home, HVAC repair and replacement, and general plumbing repairs. So we've been very successful in meeting the goals of this program. We do a lot of community outreach. Of course, we're thrilled to get to participate on the 513 relief bus. We've been doing that for 2 years. In 23-24, we served 119 individuals at 15 different locations from that. We have our own Aging and Disability Resource Center, which is our call center. Last year, we fielded over 77,000 calls from the community seeking resources for aging in general. We continue to contract with SOACT for outreach, which is an acronym for the organization serving older adults through changing times, so that continues to work. And then we continue to have our outreach bureau where we profile this program as well as others. In that last year, we touched about 121,000 Hamilton County residents at numerous events. We did over 73 events and 36 speaking engagements, and then wherever people ask us in terms of setting up tables and distributing information. A little bit about the demographics of the program. On the right graph, you'll see that 77% of the recipients of services from this program are female, 23% male. And then over on the left graph, you'll see 2% actually over the age of 91. So we had 12 individuals in that age range, and 11% over 81 to 90, but the largest being in the 60 to 70% age group. Program demographics by race, 469 of the individuals were African American, representing 70%, 111 or 17% Caucasian. We have about 40 who declined to answer, and then other being roughly 7%. The program continues to get significant amount of positive feedback. Hopefully you've heard about it with people that you've come across in your, when you're out in the community. But here are just a couple of comments that, we've been provided. People often write notes, thank you notes and the like. I had called so many different agencies to help. I can't thank you enough. The word thank you is not enough. I thought nobody cared, but you helped me. My shower tub has been non-functional for years, and we were able to get it repaired. It's significantly improved quality of life to be able to take a bath every day. So these are real impacts to individuals who are trying to stay at home. And lastly, I'm so appreciative. You guys are some of the nicest people around. My furnace that went out was from 1982. It made a huge difference in my utility bill after installation, saving $40 a month. So we are well into the 2024 program now. We have 150, and this isn't in your slide, it's just a quick update, 150 home modifications with the current budget already underway. And we have about 120,000 in remaining funds for the utility program. So that is current status. I'm going to turn it over to Ken. He's going to talk to you quickly about where we are with our managed enrollment.
So, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
So, last time we were with you, we talked about how we were going to have to manage enrollment because of the number of people coming onto the program and operating within the revenue that we have available to us. So we began managing enrollment in May of last year. So we're continuing to enroll people, but it's at a higher level of care, meeting the needs of people who have urgent needs. And then any older adult who needs assistance that's coming out of the hospital or out of a nursing facility is receiving the full range of services through our Fast Track Home program. So on this slide, you can see that the result with Fast Track Home in 2023 and going into 2024, we've actually seen growth in that option, which is 60 days post-hospitalization, and roughly 60% of the people that are coming out of the hospital don't need ongoing services after 2 months. And then the elderly services program, you can see the impact of the lower enrollment during 2023, starting in May of 2023. So the senior services levy, we are working to stay within the 5-year levy plan. And we continued, even though we started lowering the enrollment in May by accepting fewer people into the program, the expenses continued to grow until December of last year. And then December, January, and February, we've started to see expenses finally drop. And the reason for that is we had a home care workforce shortage, which was exacerbated at the end of the pandemic. And the good news is there's no longer a waiting list for individuals who are needing home care. So we had upwards of over 600 people at one point who were enrolled in the program, but waiting on a provider that had sufficient staffing to provide that home care. And now we're down under 100, which is pretty close to the normal processing of new people coming in for services. We've also come off a period of high inflation, and I know you all know this, but we saw the cost of food, transportation, and home care go up significantly after the pandemic, and those rates of growth have moderated, which is good. So, for example, with home delivered meals, we saw the price of meals increase by 39%. However, that has now moderated because last year we saw or in the current year that we're in, the rates for home delivered meals are flat. And next year, per our contract, it's back to about a 2% increase, which is more normal. What we're not seeing, though, are prices going back down, which is something I think we were all hoping that we would see that after the pandemic, after that big jump in the cost of food that we saw. We are expecting some additional savings with meals because we did some advocacy at the state level through the governor's office. And there was a requirement around therapeutic meals that required a physician's prescription, which cost more. And it was an unnecessary rule that added cost. And that has been changed, fortunately. And we're seeing the rates of home delivery meals as a result of that change are beginning to drop. So we're expecting to see the impact of that, which will enable us to serve more people longer term. A little more on the workforce improvements that we've seen. We're down to not having very few people waiting for a home care worker now, which was not the case last time we were talking to you, which is great. And that waiting list, which is down to less than 100 people, was met by a number of reasons. Number one, home care providers are better staffed now. They're hiring people. They're able to recruit and hire and retain better than they were following the pandemic. We've also introduced a new option, which is more efficient, more cost effective with doing laundry delivery. So for individuals who their need is laundry, instead of having an aide go into their home and do the laundry in their home, we have companies that are picking it up, laundering it centrally and bringing it back. It's a very popular service, and it's helping us to stretch our workforce more. And then we also have introduced Add an Aid, which is that app that we developed, which is attract a gig workforce for individuals who want the flexibility and want to do meaningful work of providing care in their home. And that has been successful, not for everybody, but for individuals who want to use that technology, it's been great. And we've been able to increase the number of people that are hiring their own worker through that app, which has also helped to close that gap. So we're currently seeking other ways of extending the county levy funds so that we can improve the quality and serve as many older adults in Hamilton County as possible. We're maximizing the available Healthy Aging Grant dollars, and I'll speak to that in one moment. We're also currently piloting a new co-payment and donation process. As part of the program for individuals that are above 150% of poverty, they have a co-payment to share in the cost of the services they're receiving, and 100% of those funds go back into the program to provide more services. So we're looking to modernize that process with an aim of increasing the revenue that's coming back into the program in the future years. We are also currently getting ready to release an RFP for a service, electronic monitoring systems, which is often known as the I fell and I can't get up button, or the call button for individuals who are living alone and are at risk of falling. And we're leveraging our volume across the region to get as best of a rate as we can. So again, so we can provide more services to more older adults. So finally, just an update on the Healthy Aging Grants. These are dollars that came to you and you allocated to us to administer. And a quick update on that included $2.5 million. To date, we've spent over half of that funding already. So we're drawing it down and using it for home delivered meals, utility, and home modifications, Add an Aid, and also assisting older adults with Medicare benefits. So this is stretching our ability to serve more older adults through these programs. And we're applying 100% of that funding to direct service without any administrative cost. Hamilton County is number one in the state in drawing down this funding because we were interviewed by a reporter from AARP magazine who called the state, wanted to do a story about healthy aging dollars. And they were sent to us because Hamilton County was leading the state in pushing those dollars out for older adults who needed the support. So we're expecting to see a story run in AARP magazine sometime in the spring. So happy to entertain any questions that you might have.
Thank you very much. That's a good way to end the presentation.
Welcome.
Hamilton County being number one in positivity, particularly with our seniors. Wanted to just, first of all, thank you and compliment you, because one of the things we had saw originally with when we were doing the rental assistance and other ARPA funds, we had a lot of seniors that showed up but didn't qualify. And so when I got a chance to see that, brought that back to my colleagues and said, hey, let's try to do $1 million out of the levy funds. And this board moved forward with that. And we saw that that was a good need. We had a dedicated phone number for people to call. And then we continued it, and we've continued it ever since. So, and I'm glad to see the number of people that we've been able to help, particularly seniors, as it relates to their homes, as it relates to utility bills, because the utility bills have gone up and seniors say, where do I go? And we're happy about that. We also put some, I think, I don't know if it was this grant, but there's some funds that you don't have to be a senior that you're implementing for us. Can you?
I think you may be referring to, there's a small grant to help with HVAC.
Yes.
Individuals who need air conditioning and heating replacement. Yes, and we're in the process right now of rolling that out in advance of the coming summer months.
Okay. Wanted to highlight that because I think that's
Thank you.
critical as well. And wanted to ask you a question, though, about the copay.
Yes.
On the copay, is that a percentage, or how do you determine what that copay amount is?
Yes, it's based on a percentage based on the individual's income and their assets. So it could be anywhere between 5% and 100%, depending on their income or their ability to pay.
Okay. And that's just a copay, and then you get the help. You're able to get the help you need, right?
Correct. And the way that works is the services are provided, and then the older adult receives an invoice for their percentage of the share of that cost. And all of those proceeds go back into the program to serve more people.
Gotcha. Because I just want to make sure I understand that we got to try to raise money to keep the program going, but I want to just make sure that it's affordable I still want to keep the affordable lens on this for our senior citizens. So I wanted to make sure that is considered, because I have heard, just learned about some just horror stories that seniors are going through, and I'm glad we have a council on aging that they can contact. But I hadn't realized if you have Medicare, there's someone I know, their parent is going through that. She has Medicare, but she keeps falling and in and out of the hospital, and the bills are just really high. And my understanding, and I didn't know this, that you can try to get Medicaid, right, to help, but they want you to give up your life insurance to be buried. I never knew that. And I think that is horrible if someone's been paying for their life insurance to be able to be buried and those kind of things. But you have to give all that up to get Medicaid.
Yes. And there's a common misperception among a lot of people that Medicare is going to cover their long-term care services, and that's not the case. That's a health care program, not a long-term care program. And unfortunately, to qualify for Medicaid, you have to spend down to those income guidelines. Yeah.
Wow, it's terrible. In addition to that, it's so terrible because people work their whole lives, and it's just terrible. But with that, I was happy to see the community outreach and the partnership with the 513 Relief Bus. I've been to several locations. I've seen the Council on Aging there. And it's great because there are seniors that are there and they have questions. And I'm like, great, you can now sit down and talk right here on the bus. Mm-hmm. Your folks have been very good. On the year 23, 24, we've had the referrals, and now we go into 24 season. Wanted to make sure we can hopefully get back up to those numbers that we had in 22, 23, and servicing more individuals.
Yes, our staff love the 513 relief bus. It's a great outreach tool to go to where the people are, and to be able to meet with them face to face is just a real benefit. And we support that, and we've also heard about the initiative with the veterans that'll be this summer, and we're going to participate in that as well.
That's awesome. Awesome. And then you said the meal cost is going down. The home delivered meal costs have went up, and now you're seeing it kind of drop back down
Slightly.
slightly. Okay. I was just wondering, is that going to be an issue? Are we going to service less people with the meals because of the cost, or how do we handle that?
Well, our goal is to serve as many people as possible, which is why we approached the state about that rule change to reduce the cost of what it takes to provide a meal. And we were successful in that effort, and we think the savings from that we're going to see this year, which will enable us again to serve more people.
Okay, great. Awesome. Okay, I'll open it up. Vice President Treehouse.
Thanks for the presentation. Thank you for bringing the team down. It's always good to see everybody. And as always, thank you for what you're doing. You guys are such a reliable partner when we are trying to push forward any kind of program related to seniors. We know we can count on COA to administer those dollars and to make sure that as many seniors are served through our programming as possible. It really is something. I know not every community is as lucky as we are to have a team like you that we can rely on for that purpose. So thank you for what you're doing. Thank you for allowing seniors to age in place, which is really what this is all about, right? So I wanted to talk a little bit about, first of all, I just want to highlight a number that you put out and emphasize that you said, and Suzanne said it, that you're serving 77,000 people through your contact line. Can you say what that is and tell folks that are listening how to use that information?
So yes, we have a call center, our 721-1025 line, and it's really, we push that number out. It's for anyone in the community who's seeking information and referral services. We provide non-biased resource information for individuals. So whether if they're searching for a nursing home or legal services, free food banks, whatever their need may be, our staff are able to direct them and do a warm handoff by calling a partner organization in the community and assisting them. So those numbers have been growing. I want to say last year it was like 60,000 calls. This year it's 77,000 calls. And on top of that, we have, I want to say like 100,000 people coming through our website inquiries looking for resources. So we maintain a pretty voluminous resource directory for people. And we keep that updated as best we can so that people can, help their loved ones, their neighbors, their family members get to the right resource that they might need.
Yeah, that's an astounding number,
Yes.
Suzanne. It's really something. So it leads me to my next question, which is related to funding. So I can see through the report that you are you have to tighten up a little bit what you're doing and how many people you're serving related to the money that's available through the levy.
Correct.
So where is, and that's what I know the presentation is really to give us an update related to the levy and the levy dollars. So where is the reserve right now with the levy, and what do you anticipate because the levy is up when? How many years do we have to go here?
2.
Okay, so we're kind of mid-cycle.
Yes, and I don't. Do you have the 5-year with us? We might.
So because the idea is that you have to serve this many people because that's all that you can do given the levy dollars that you have at your disposal.
Correct. And so we, with our program as compared to others, if an individual comes onto the ESP program, the average length of stay on that program is 2+ years. So we have to manage very carefully who's coming in the middle because they're going to be on for 2 years. And if we're not managing that in the middle, we would find ourselves coming to you, with either a big levy increase or having to figure out how to get people abruptly off the program. So we're always managing to the whole 5 years and to the levy balance that was planned for when the levy plan was developed. So that's why we've been maintaining enrollment, is to stick to that plan. So we're not seeing our fund balances growing. In fact, we're seeing them having to be managed in order to land where we need to land for you at the end of the levy cycle.
Right. In other words, you've got a budget and you're trying to stay within budget. Okay. And I was just wondering if that reserve is remaining steady, or is it going up or down?
It's going down.
Okay. Okay. That helps answer the question. And then the other thing, just two other things. One is you mentioned the copay piece that Commissioner Reese mentioned as well. So it seems to me that you are then, because you're thinking through that, you're thinking through additional funding sources to stretch the dollars that you're using through the levy. And so this copay idea, this is a new idea?
No, we've always had a copay.
Okay.
It's really trying to look at, is this the best way to get client assistance on the program? Is it the most administrative, efficient, easy for the consumer? So that's being looked at. I would say, and to Commissioner Reese's question, the majority of the individuals on the program do not have a copay. Their income is such that they don't require a copay. So, and the balance have, I would say, relatively low copays. So we're just looking at, over time, we have seen those copays decline. And in part, I think that is partly due to the economic shift on some of the older adults being not needing to do a copay because they are so low income that they don't qualify. So at this point, we're trying to look at the system. It's the same one we've had for decades, to see, is there a better way to do it that's easier on the older adult, easier on collections for us, and administrative burden.
What percentage would you say are paying a copay?
I believe it's probably under 20%. It used to be like right around 25.
Okay.
And, I think the last time we looked, it's like, and we're about ready to come out with our new annual report for you. It's in production, but I think 80% of the individuals on the program are below 200% of poverty.
Okay.
So it's a very low income group of people being served. And that's because of what Commissioner Reese also alluded to. Medicare does not cover these types of services. And so people have this levy is the safety net for those individuals to get help.
Okay. Okay. I think that's all I have. I know that you're always looking for additional resources also outside the levy to pull in, again, to leverage what you've got. So, yeah. So.
And those healthy aging grants, one of our, Ken mentioned we're #1 in the state drawing those down in Hamilton County, and that's by design because those have a very time-limited ability to spend those. And so we're hoping that if other jurisdictions throughout the state are not able to spend their money, that we will be there with eligible expenditures to capture some of that other funding from the state.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Dumas?
Thank you. Thanks for the presentation. I just think you guys are awesome.
Oh, thank you.
When I listened to your presentation, the cost effectiveness that you take into consideration to make sure that the levy dollars are used efficiently, I hear it throughout your whole report. I have so much to say. I'm going to limit it. Just a few questions. The vendor for the home delivery meals, did you change vendors or you have the same vendor? I heard about the cost, but do you have the same vendor?
So we competitively bid those, and those organizations that win the bid awards are those that we contract with. Okay. But I think all of the vendors experienced price increases in the cost of food.
Well, I'm looking at more of the quality of the food, the taste of the food. So you have how many vendors for council?
For this program, or
yeah,
it's about 6.
5. Yeah, I was going to say 5 or 6.
5 or 6. Okay. Yeah, I'm getting reports about the food, and it's good reports. And it sounds like maybe you've changed some of the vendors or added some on. I don't know.
Well, we're always trying to increase quality, that too. And a couple of years ago, we introduced a system where, like a star rating system, where the clients can rate, and then that makes a difference in terms of referrals, and other people coming on the program get to see who the highest quality providers are and then likely pick those, and then market share shifts that way. So people, if they don't want to lose market share, they have to increase their quality to make sure the older adult feels like the food is good.
Great, yeah. The laundry services, I remember you bringing this forward, I think last year, it's the early edition, is that correct?
Right.
Yeah, and so I think that's awesome that they have the opportunity to do that. The gig app, I didn't get the last part. What app were you talking about that they can?
So that is an app that we've developed called Add and Aid. And it really is for the consumer directed care clients who hire their own, want to hire their own neighbor or friend. The difficulty they were having is if they didn't know a neighbor or a friend, they couldn't hire someone. And so what we did was created this app and did a marketing campaign at the same time to target maybe nursing students, stay-at-home moms who might be interested in helping in their neighborhood. So that brought individuals who were not in the home care industry to the table. And it's kind of like a matching system. You can swipe and see who's available, and the aide can reach out. Everybody gets background checked, and all those systems are in place. But it's a great matching process, and people have loved it so far.
I think that's just great, because as you get older, and it's like, just give them, whatever. Your attitude is what fits the need, of course, of each senior, and trying to individualize what you do with all the clients you have. So you also talked about an RFP that's coming out. Can you just very quickly say what the RFP is for again?
Yes, I'll let Ken talk about that.
Yes, so the RFP is we call them electronic monitoring systems. And it's a device that is a fall detection device for an individual who is likely to fall in their own home. And if they do have a fall, they get connected with a call center that can dispatch fire EMS if necessary.
And when is that coming out, the RFP?
It's coming out this summer.
Okay.
Yes, and some of the services extend beyond fall detection. We also have, as an example, automatic medication dispensing devices for an individual who forgets to take their medication or can't remember if they took it or not, or it automatically dispenses it. And if they don't take their medication, it can notify a family member through their smartphone.
Very good. I'm almost done. The older adults that were served in 2023 is so impressive. Utility assistance and home modification is just awesome. Transportation. I know we used to sit in the office talking about trying to improve the transportation. You were looking at a different system, a different vendor. And so I haven't heard the concerns that I used to hear about transportation.
Which is good, because part of the system that we initiated involves scheduling by COA and monitoring our providers on quality, whether they're running late. We can determine that through our software if they are not running on time. And then we are able to, most often, they're going to medical appointments. So we have a system set up with the healthcare community where if we see through our software and our call center that an individual is running late for their medical appointment, we contact the physician's office, let them know that they are en route so they can manage their waiting room and not cancel the client's appointment. So all of those things have yielded really high customer satisfaction on our surveys. And that was a complete process change from what you experienced in the past, and we talked about the poor quality and the provider network. We have changed that entire system.
Okay, great. I can tell. And lastly, the Healthy Aging Grant. Just the fact that you put in there 100% is going to direct care with no administrative costs. I mean, you didn't have to do that, but you did it because you wanted to. Can you hold it down? So anyway. But anyway, just so you can use more of the money directly to the people that you serve. And then just talking about that ARPA grant, the article that's coming out in the AARP. And I just see why you guys are number one, because I'm just
Thank you.
So impressed. And so when we talk about the levy coming up again, when it does, that people can hear and see why they would need to support it. So thank you all for what you do. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you. We appreciate that we have a board of county commissioners who support seniors and are so vocal about it.
Yeah,
Not every community has that.
I have one other question. The Healthy Aging Grant is, you have to spend it by June. And so in 3 months, you think you're halfway there. You think you'll be able to spend it?
It'll be spent.
Yes, okay.
And our
'Cause
hands
we don't
will be
want to
out.
leave anything on
No,
the
right.
table, that's for sure.
We're hoping to spend quickly and then show that we could use more if there's other counties who are not able to use theirs.
Okay. Well, thank you. I'll end it because my next favorite agency is coming.
Okay.
So, okay.
Thank you.
All right.
I follow up on the
Yes,
transportation.
Vice Pres-
So I know that you are working on a partnership with SORTA related to transportation as well, because they have, the regular service. They have a service called Access, which is for people with disabilities or seniors
Right.
who need more specialized service. And then so that's a door-to-door. And then there's the through-the-door service, which would finish out the continuum of transportation needs in the community for people that still need a little extra help getting to the vehicle, need someone to come literally to the door and walk them through the door and vice versa when they return back. So can you elaborate just a little bit on what that is and the status of that?
Sure. So if you are receiving transportation services through the senior services levy, it is because you cannot ride Metro or ride Access, meaning you can't get to the vehicle or you have cognitive impairments. So you need a driver to come up to your home, help you out, and deliver you to the lobby. So we've been advocating with SORTA, SORTA by their own admission, and I used to be the SORTA board chair years ago, does the minimum to meet ADA compliance. And what we'd really like to see is this entire continuum of transportation services funded by SORTA to include the frail elderly piece that we're doing. So we are having those conversations with them now, with the board. We were just there last week to raise the issue. And feel really that funding should come from SORTA funds, and that would free up the levy to allow individuals to continue to be enrolled for food and other important services that they might need. So we've been at this for quite some time, these discussions with SORTA, and hopefully I feel like there's some positive movement. And, it is really a policy decision of the SORTA board to make a determination whether they want to serve the frail elderly.
Well, thank you for your advocacy there, because they're, as you know, they just passed a levy as well. And so they have resources available perhaps to finish out, as you say, the continuum of transportation in our community. And I really do think it's a great idea for them to partner with you to finish out the continuum from their perspective, and then you get to serve more people. So it's just a big win all over the place. Yeah, right.
Right. So we're hoping for a favorable outcome on that. We'll keep you posted on those conversations.
Yeah. Thank you.
Please keep us posted. It's very important that we leverage all our dollars.
Great.
No silos, because there are limited funds, but we've got to stretch every fund we have to try to help as many people, because people are really in need of help.
Agreed.
So thank you so much for your innovation and thinking of ways that we can stretch those dollars. And we look forward to hearing hopefully a good news. I know Daryl, he also thinks creatively as well. So hoping the two good minds come together and are able to come up with something that helps us stretch the dollars.
Hopefully. Fingers crossed. We're hopeful.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Developmental Disability Services, Leah Snyder. Welcome back.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I'm Leah Snyder, Superintendent and CEO with Hamilton County Developmental Disability Services. Happy to be here today, and I also have a few team members with me. I'll introduce them just quickly. We have Ryan Braun, Director of Community Relations, Neil Townsend, Director of Finance, and Assistant Director Ashley Jackson. So I'll be doing the heavy lifting for the presentation, but they're here if you have any specific questions and we need their expertise. So my purpose here today really is just to get us geared up for the TLRC process. We've recently started that. I'm going to do an agency overview, talk about some trends that we're seeing and some future considerations, and then also give a brief financial overview as well. I'll start just by talking about the services we provide, and I can't go into details about a lot of the programs just because there's so many, but for the sake of time, I did want to highlight a few of the major service areas. The first one that you see up there is early intervention. So early intervention is for children, toddlers, and infants that are from birth up to age 3 with a delay or developmental disability. And we take those services into families' homes and into the community. So those are provided in natural environments. We have a team of professionals. They go out into the home, and our ultimate goal is really to empower that family to support their child's development through their everyday routines. And so they're helping them learn those strategies and incorporate them into their family life. The next group there is school age. So for school age, we provide 2 specialized schools. Those are Rost and Fairfax. And at those schools, we're serving students that have the most significant needs. So we never want to be a replacement for a district. These are really the safety net option for students who would otherwise either be on home instruction or who haven't been successful in their home district. In addition to the schools that we operate, we do support students throughout Hamilton County. That could be things like transition, helping students over the age of 14 start develop job skills, or it could be things like behavioral health support, family support, respite services, those kinds of things. And then really, I have it for adult and aging, but anybody over the age of 3, we provide SSA services, that's Service and Support Administration. And you might think about that like case management. So they assess a person's needs, they also talk to them about what their goals are, and then they help coordinate their services to support those needs and those goals. And one of the biggest functions tied to SSA services is reviewing the needs and authorizing Medicaid waiver services. And I will talk about that more later on in the presentation because it's such a big part of not only what we do, but also of our budget. But those services include things like help with personal care that you might receive in home, with showering, preparing meals, that sort of thing. It also includes things like day services, employment support, transportation, home modifications, and really a lot of other services. There's a wide array that's provided. So again, I want to focus on the fact that we provide a lifetime of support. Really, a person truly could receive services from us throughout their entire life. They may come and go as their needs change, and the variety of services that we provide is very individualized. Some people may just need a little bit of help with transportation and some job coaching. Other people are going to require 24-hour care and really assistance with every aspect of their life. All right, so I wanted to give an update of what's been going on since 2019. And probably one of the things that comes up for many agencies during this time period is the pandemic response. So like many people, we had to shift very rapidly to help support people during the pandemic. Some of the things that I'm really proud with how we responded to was we helped establish vaccine clinics partnering with the health district. And so on site at our locations, we were able to offer those vaccine clinics to people with disabilities and to their family members and caregivers. A lot of the people that we serve do have co-occurring medical conditions that make them particularly vulnerable. So we were very happy to have that partnership and be able to make sure people that wanted vaccines had access to them. In addition, we helped individuals and families with some additional supports during that time. And then the other group that was significantly impacted was our providers. And so our providers had to shift as well to meet needs that they really hadn't previously thought about. And so we provided direct financial support to support things like overtime, the cost of personal protective equipment, and some other things along those lines. We provided about $13 million in support directly to providers. You may remember too, at the last tax levy review process, we had a lengthy waiting list, and that was partially people that had needs currently, but the way that the state had set up the waiting list, it could also be people that put their name on the list in anticipation of future needs. And so it was really hard to gauge how many people on that list had a current need. There was a new rule implemented, and how the waiting list works now is that we assess a need, and if you have a current or an immediate need, you could go on a waiting list. If it's a future need, 5-10 years out, then you wouldn't sit on a waiting list. You would be able to ask for a new assessment when that need presents. And so during that process, we were able to completely eliminate our waiting list. We reviewed every single person on there, and I'm very happy to say that we're not maintaining a waiting list currently. The only time a person is on a waiting list is just from the time they're approved until the time that it takes to process their enrollment onto a Medicaid waiver. So that was a big undertaking for our staff, and we were able to get through there. We've done a lot of work around empowerment and advocacy. We have a lot of groups to help encourage people with disabilities to learn how to advocate for themselves and for others, also to do some policy advocacy. We were a strong proponent for direct support professional to have increased wages, which there was a significant investment in the last state budget. That's one of the things that's tricky about Medicaid services. We are not allowed to supplement the rate. At the time of the start of the pandemic, the rate was built on a DSP wage of about $13.70 an hour. And so you can imagine how difficult it is to hire an employee at that rate. Through the budget process and the state with the largest portion of the investment, with county boards also supporting that investment, we're up to $18 an hour going to $19 an hour. So that's really helped us to stabilize our direct support professional workforce. We've invested more in early intervention, a new service called support navigation, which allows people who may not have extensive needs and just have very specific services they're looking for to have a contact that can move them through that process in a little more streamlined way. We've had 4 specialized housing developments. Those look very different based on the needs of people in those housing developments, but they are designed to help us support more people in the community. And then we've really focused on community outreach with a particular emphasis on making sure that we're ensuring equitable access to our services, making sure people know who we are and what we do in case they have a need. All right, I know that it's difficult to see these numbers, so I will give you the highlights. This just breaks down our revenue sources and our expenses by percentage. And really the high-level overview at the top, which you can see that the long bar at the top is that 83% of our revenue is from the local levy. The other resources are from state, federal, and then some miscellaneous sources. If you look down at our expenses, that largest line item is services funded in the community. The second one is 26% for direct supports that we provide directly. 13% is for other supports that are sort of supplemental kinds of services. And then we have 5% for building and 4% for administrative cost. So altogether, if you look at that, we are using about 9% for building and administrative cost. Everything else is going to services. All right, I mentioned I wanted to talk a little bit about Medicaid waivers because they're such a big part of what we do. So a Medicaid waiver is really just a funding source that supports services in the community. And the name comes from how it originated. So the only option used to be that people could receive services in institutional settings. When the waiver was created, you could as a person say, I'm waiving my right to institutional care. Instead, I want those funds to go towards services in the community. And so Medicaid waivers are really an important part of providing long-term care for people with disabilities. There are 3 different types, and something important to know is that the eligibility requirements for waivers and also the services that are offered on them are developed by the state and approved at the federal level. So we don't really have control over what services we can offer on the waiver, so we can't limit them or we can't add to them, but those things are set at the state level. Another thing that's really important is that waivers are a lifetime commitment. So once we enroll somebody on a waiver, there are very limited reasons that they can be removed from that waiver, and they're typically if the person's not using their services. So once somebody's enrolled, we need to plan that for the rest of their lifetime, we're going to be able to commit to providing that service for them. I'll talk a little bit more about the financial implications, but I wanted to show some waiver enrollment trends just to give you a little bit of context for that. So you can see that we had maybe a slight level off during the pandemic, and then a sharp spike. If you look at 2023, for example, our year-over-year net increase in waivers is 94, which is definitely higher. If you looked at the previous years, we went from 32 to 54 to 94, and that's net new increases. The average cost for an IO waiver, so that's the ones that we're looking at in the chart there, is $102,000. And so this is something that we're paying close attention to. We're trying to determine, is this a short-term spike as a result of coming out of the pandemic and it's going to level off, or are we going to see it continue to grow? And we're watching numbers to try to gauge that. So funding waivers is one of the core responsibilities of a county board. As I mentioned, it's our single largest expense in terms of our budget. But an important thing to keep in mind is that waivers require a local match to unlock those federal dollars. So for every dollar that we invest in waiver services, we're going to get $5 combined in state and federal dollars coming back into the community. Those are typically going directly to providers that are providing those valuable services. Again, all the eligibility rules and rates are established by Medicaid. We can't change or supplement those. And again, waivers are a lifetime commitment. All right, the next slide shows our cash balance projection over the next levy cycle. I know that's difficult to see the numbers, but really just in terms of the chart at the bottom, you can see that we're projecting that we will spend down that cash balance over the next levy cycle, ending with about 30 million carryover in that final year. I'm going to talk a little bit more about our cash balance, but we can also provide these numbers so you can look at them a little bit more closely. We know this is something that the TLRC looks at. We also know it's something that people are asking about, and so we just wanted to make sure that we're showing this and providing some information about that. So if you look at our last levy cycle, you will see that the cash balance increased. Initially, some of that was intentional. We were really conservative with adding any new services or any new staff because we knew that waiting list was being evaluated, and we knew that we could have needs on there, and so we wanted to be able to meet those needs. But the most significant reason for the increase was that during the pandemic, the enhanced federal match meant that our costs decreased a lot. So they were paying a much higher percentage in match towards waiver services. And as you can imagine, when that's 50%, 40 to 50% of our budget, then that has a big impact on our budget. The other thing that happened during the pandemic was decreased utilization. So people were no longer going to day program. They may have been laid off from their job. They weren't using as much transportation. And so a lot of those service needs that drive the cost really just dropped off during that time period. They've been a little bit slow to recover. Some of what Aging spoke about also applies to us in terms of the staffing crisis. And so they're starting to pick back up now. We're seeing those increases come back, but there for a while, the staffing was at such a crisis point that even people that needed services were having trouble getting a provider to provide them. We do think that this balance allows us to be fiscally responsible, to maintain the crucial services that we provide, and to meet growing needs. And also, we always want to be mindful of avoiding stressing other essential county services or having to ask for emergency support. And then we want to make sure that we're in a strong position and avoid any difficulty if there were a recession, any really difficult cuts to staff and services. Some other things just I thought would be helpful to give a little bit of context. Ohio's system is unique when you compare it to other states in that they rely very heavily on local dollars to support disability services. Hamilton County, we operate on a 5-year term levy, as I'm sure that you know, but 95% of other counties, so 84 of 88, either have a continuing levy, they have more than one levy, or they have both, a combination of both. So that is something that makes us a little bit unique. Our last levy increase was in 2009. We spend, another thing when you're looking at our cash balance, just because of the timing and the upfront loading of cost, we have about $50 million that we spend in the first quarter of every year before we receive any levy revenue. So that's something that we're always mindful of and take into consideration. We do know that if the levy were to fail, we wouldn't receive any levy revenue for 12 to 18 months. So again, that's something that we have to be very mindful of when we're doing these long-term projections and planning. County boards provide mandated services, which can't be cut. And if you look at our cash balance as a percentage of our total expenditures, it's really in line with peer counties and lower than the statewide average. I did provide a chart just to show this a little bit. I know the names are difficult to read, but if you look at that first yellow bar, that's the statewide average of cash balance. And then the second bar is Hamilton County. Some of the other counties that we pulled out, Warren County is the first one listed there, Franklin, Cuyahoga, so those are all on the higher end, and then we have Butler County on the lower end, but that just outlines the cash balances in terms of the whole state. So looking ahead, there's a lot of things that we know we have challenges ahead, but we also are very excited about. Some of our focus areas will continue to focus on community outreach and equitable access. We know that that's important. We've really seen some great results from engagement. We do a lot of work. We have staff that are on the 513 relief bus. We have staff that go out into hospitals. We're starting to do eligibility assessments at Children's Hospital. That's something new that we're doing this year to help make it easier for families to access services. We're also doing a lot of work with school districts and with other community partners. We do need to invest in staff to meet growing needs. That's one of the things that we're seeing as you saw the waivers, but also in terms of our SSA services and early intervention, we're seeing sharp increases there as well. Since 2019, we're seeing about a 50% increase in both of those areas. And in EI especially, over the course of the last 2 years, the numbers of referrals just continues to grow. And so we're responding to those needs as they come into play. Technology is a big area of focus for us. So we know that the staffing crisis, we've stabilized it with the DSP rate increases, but we know that there's still a shortage of the number of people to provide services. And so technology isn't a replacement for staff, especially not in all cases, but if there are ways that technology can support a person and help them be more independent and also reduce the reliance on staff, that's something that we're focused on. And so you may have seen some of our partner agencies, LAD, for example, has been very progressive with their smart living systems. We've worked with a lot of technology providers to make sure that people can have, maybe they don't need a staff person with them overnight, maybe they just need some sensors in the home to make sure that they're safe and somebody can view that from a distance. And so we're working a lot on technology. Also increasing access and understanding of technology for the people we serve and families. We sort of saw during the pandemic that there's so much that relies on technology and everybody really needs access. It was an equity issue when it comes to being able to access education and doctor's appointments and all of those things that we rely on. Housing and transportation will continue to be a focus, empowerment and advocacy. The other thing is supporting people with complex needs in their families. So we're seeing referrals earlier for behavioral health needs and for people with a higher level of mental health or medical complexity. And so we are making sure that we have options available to support them in the community. We'll continue to focus on partnership and collaboration and continue to focus on DSP wages and provider support. Before I close, I can't leave without mentioning, because it's tomorrow, I had to put in a plug for our Accessible Hamilton County event. It will be at our Kingsley Drive location from 10 to 2. It's going to be focused on accessibility. We'll have resources available, but we're also using it as an opportunity to celebrate DD Awareness Month, which is March. So would love to have people stop out and be there, whether you're looking to get connected to resources or you just like to celebrate with us. So be happy to answer any questions you guys have for me.
Thank you very much for your presentation. I'm going to start with tomorrow, and then I'll work my way to some questions. And as you said, March is DDS Awareness Month, and we're celebrating it tomorrow with a collaboration with the 513 Relief Bus. It's going to take place, like you said, 5093 Kinsley Drive, and that's in the Madisonville area.
Yes.
And it's going to be 10 a.m. until 2 p.m. The entire family is invited. You've got some exciting things. Trevina said there's some exciting things that we're going to have there for the entire family. I know it's spring break for some, and they're going to have some fun activities, some music, medical screenings, all free. Residential and day providers will be there. They'll have some free meals and produce. And they said, check out the new mobile accessible restroom. So that's going to be interesting. So again, I invite folks to come out. One of the things we definitely want to make sure is that Hamilton County is accessible to all citizens. And developmental disabilities is critical, having the care and the complexity that you have to go through as a parent or a person yourself, going through this and understanding the waivers and not the waivers, and the Medicaid. I mean, it's paperwork after paperwork, but you all can help people navigate through there. There's too many people out here who have developmental disabilities that may not be connected. They're just trying to go at it on their own, or a family that's trying to go at it. I know some families that's going at it on their own and do not know that there's help. So you could come out, you could talk to someone one-on-one, and be able to find out how to help folks navigate. There's funding out there. Of course, we've got to always look at, we want to have, more funding, and how do we do it? But the fact that there is funding and there are people who don't know, or there are services and they may not know. And so we've seen that as you all have traveled with the bus and people have come and asked questions. And as a result, we got a whole day or half a day dedicated. So I do encourage folks that are out there who have a child or grown-ups that have developmental disabilities to come out and join us on tomorrow and be able to directly interact and get the information, and it's be actionable as it relates to this. So I can't think of a better way to celebrate that month than a month with action of resources and connectivity. So encouraging that. Now, I did have a few things that you brought out in the presentation that is important as it relates to the levy, and there are state mandates that each county has to do and provide services, and the levy allows us to provide those services. Without the levy, it would be going into the general fund, and we have limited general fund that you brought up. But you did say that on the levy side, for every $1, we're able to then get $5 federal dollars. Can you expound on that again?
Yes, so, and that is important probably for us to clarify, because you won't see those $5 come through our agencies. That comes down to the state level. Our dollar goes up to the state level, and then it goes out into the community to providers. So it doesn't run through our budget, but those dollars do bring in that additional $5 of federal Medicaid match that goes out into the community.
Gotcha. And then you were saying that the way we do our levy is different than other counties. Can you explain that?
Yeah, so we have the 5-year term levy, and when you look at other counties, most of them either have some kind of continuing millage or they'll have overlapping levies. So they might have a 5-year levy that is a certain millage and a 10-year levy that is a certain millage. So if they were to fail a levy, they would have some sort of funds still coming in. So that's what makes ours a little bit unique and something that is just a really important planning consideration for us.
Gotcha. And then you were saying that since COVID, you wanted to keep your eye on, there seems to be a increase. One of the things I thought was interesting is Warren County is up higher than us, and that's kind of interesting because they kind of pride themselves in low taxes. So I thought that was quite interesting that they do that. But talk about the part about COVID, and you saw a spike, but we've got to keep our eye on it.
Right. So the number of waivers is where we're really seeing an increase. And if you remember, I talked early on about the rule changing. So we can't have people just sitting on a waiting list. If the need is there, if it's current or immediate, we now have strict timelines that we have to get them onto that waiver if there's determined to be a need. And so we are making sure that when somebody comes through, they are receiving those services, and the number of IO waivers, which is our most expensive waiver, has had a sharp increase since coming out of the pandemic. And so that could be because of the waiting list changes. It could be maybe referrals slowed during that period as people were just kind of cautiously waiting to make major changes in their life. But we've seen a sharp increase. Like I said, I think it went from 54 to 94 in terms of the net new increase when you look at people that are enrolling and disenrolling because maybe they move or something like that. But the net new was 94 last year. And so we really just want to make sure that we're watching that. We'll watch our numbers and continue to see, is that going to continue to be a trend that goes up, or is it going to level out over time?
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you. I'll open it up. Vice President Driehaus.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. Thank you also for bringing your team. It's good to see everyone. So when you talk about the increases in people that are using the services and applying, you talked about once people are in the system, they remain in the system, and it's for a lifetime. So as you think about budgeting, and I can imagine how difficult that is to budget that far out, but the folks that are coming in, are they young people? Are they, and you mentioned also people with a variety of needs that can be more expensive to serve. What kind of folks are you seeing coming in, and do you have concern about some of the complexities there if they are there?
Yeah. So we are seeing a higher spike on the younger children, and that's something that, you know, I'm sure there's a variety of causes, and I'm sure a lot of agencies probably talk too about multi-system youth and just seeing increasing complexity of needs. And so I think a lot of people are focused on trying to make sure that we have supports that are better designed to meet those needs. You know, our ultimate goal that we talk about a lot is we want to intervene early, and so hopefully we can help address those needs early, get supports in place for the child and for the family, and so then those needs don't continue to grow and escalate over time. And so that's something that we're really focused on. But we are seeing earlier and earlier referrals, and that could be because we're doing a lot of work with outreach, and we hope that's part of the reason. But we also just think that there's growing need that we're responding to as well.
I was going to ask you that. So what do you attribute the increase to? Is it's one of those things that, are people responding in a way, maybe because of the outreach, because of the reduction maybe in the stigma related to applying for the services maybe? I mean, I do wonder about that, because I wonder about whether or not it's going to continue to increase and what that means to your budget related to that. So do you have you have a certain expectation as to whether it might level off given some of the outreach you're doing, or do you think it might continue to increase?
So we actually look, and if you just, we look at this for all different service groups, but if you look at early intervention specifically, for example, we know that if you look at just census data and what you would expect to see, you would expect to see about 3% of all children born would be eligible for services. Now, we currently are not at that level. If we were to get to that level, we would be serving about 1,000 children. We're at about 750 right now, and so it's going to continue to grow. What we would hope is once we get towards that 3%, and that's when we would maybe see it level off. And so that's what we are looking at when we're looking at projections, is how can we make sure we're able to serve that number that we would expect to see based on the best data that's available.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah. So you do have kind of a finite number.
Yeah.
Yeah, great. One last question. So we heard from COA about some of the partnerships and some of the resources that they're pulling down from other sources. Are you able to do that as well with either local partners or partners at the federal or state level?
So we're able to do that some. We actually, through the Department of Developmental Disabilities, received a grant for, I'd have to look up the exact amount, but it was over $200,000 to focus on community inclusion. So that's one of the ways that we're going to be able to provide the mobile restroom and changing stations, because a lot of families are limited to events because they have to have a place where they can change somebody safely. And so that's one of the ways that we're doing that, but we're focused on a lot of other ways to increase community inclusion. So we do constantly seek out grants. We're a little bit more limited in terms of the funding sources we can draw down, but we have worked really hard to make sure that we're maximizing that. So we have targeted case management, Title 20. There's a few billing sources that we're able to bill our staff's time on. And so we've worked really hard to streamline everything to make sure we're capturing any possible billing source that we can and maximizing that.
I just want to back up for 1 second. What did you say about the changing? So they're mobile and they are available at events?
Yes, so it's called the Momentum Refresh Van. You'll be able to see it tomorrow if you're out at the event, and it has a place where you can use an accessible restroom or have a space available for changing. Staff that can even assist if you need help with transferring or something like that. And we're not just going to have it at our events. We've talked to the Chamber of Commerce and a lot of other organizations that hold community events, and we're going to have it at a lot of different locations to make sure that individuals that we serve and families can access those.
That's really great. Yeah, thank you.
Commissioner Dumas?
Thank you. Thank you for your presentation. Those booths are great because we sometimes forget that even adults sometimes are wearing diapers and they can't fit in there to do what they need to do. And your presentation was awesome. I remember when you first started, and it's like you've been here forever. How long have you been a part of as far as director?
Oh gosh, almost 4 years now.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
well, I guess 3.5 years now. So have a great team of people. That's what makes it work.
Awesome. This is such hard work, dealing with those that are disabled, not to even talk about the patience that's necessary to do that. And so just was really happy to hear that you were able to increase the wages. That helps a lot, but you have to be a really special person to be able to deal with that population. So I'm just really happy on the increase. Just a couple things. We allocated as a board over $40 million for housing, give or take $1 million or $2 million, and we specifically designated disability housing. And so we just recently passed a $4.5 million resolution for disability housing. So I really wanted to find out, what role did you play in it as far as making a recommendation of where it should be, who should be referred? Do they come to you for referrals because I saw in here you said specialized housing developments. Do they come to you and get input from you on housing?
Yes, so housing is something that all of our case managers work with people on. And so they can come to us. Typically, we're partnering with other nonprofit housing corporations or providers that provide housing. So we don't provide it directly, but we've supported that financially. And also there are some dollars, they're called community capital assistance dollars. So we often draw those down for housing projects. Again, those are pass-through funds, so they come into us, but they go out to nonprofit housing corporations. But really, whether it's, we help people with all types of housing. It's really identifying what their need is and trying to help them find that. Now, it's still a challenge. I mean, affordable, accessible housing is just a challenge everywhere, and so that's something that we see as well. But we're trying to do everything that we can to help develop new options and support those options that are in the community.
Okay. I just want to make sure that they come to you, to your agency, as we look at disability housing, as they look at renovating or building new housing, that you're part of the process. And so, which brings me to, you have a board, a DDS board, and are there any vacancies on the board right now that you know of?
We don't have any current vacancies. We do have somebody that's termed out at the end of this year, and it will be an appointee of the commissioners. And there was a law change in the state budget, which is exciting, but something that you guys will have the opportunity to do is that one of the commissioners' appointees, when it's next available, which will be at the end of this year, is a person with a disability who's receiving services or eligible for services. So that's something to keep in mind for the end of this year. There will be an appointment for you guys to make in that category.
Thank you so much. I wanted those that were listening or thinking or interested in getting involved, that would be a great board among many to be a part of. So thank you all for what you do. I appreciate it. That's all I have.
I will just say we're looking forward to working with the TLRC and the consultants and having them analyze and help us make sure that we can continue supports into the future. So thank you.
Right.
We should have mentioned that this levy's up this year.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Yes, sounds good. See you there.
Thank you very much. All right. I make a motion to go into executive session pursuant to ORC Section 12122G3 to conduct a conference with an attorney for the public body concerning MSD.
Second.
Commissioner Reese,
Yes.
Commissioner Dreehouse,
Yes.
Commissioner Summer Dumas.
Yes.